summer solstice, sun rising, midwinter solstice, I can't remember exactly, moon rising. Anyway, it's this perfect rectangle. If Stonehenge was one latitude above or below, it would have to have been a parallelogram. It would have ruined the geometry. Okay? It's perfectly sited where it is. It's also, I think, on the same latitude line as the Great Pyramids of Giza. It's a kind of anchoring point for the planet. My understanding of it, thinking about it a lot, is that the Neolithic people, before building Stonehenge, had a complete intuitive awareness, understanding of their relationship to the planet and the planet's relationship to the solar system and the universe. When they began to lose that intuitive awareness, they had to exteriorize it. So they had to build Stonehenge and Avebury and places like that. They did it for two purposes. One was because they knew they were beginning to lose this ability and this knowledge, so they had to do it for themselves. But they did it in such a way, with such permanence for us at this time. It's like if you go to Stonehenge and Avebury, I mean, there have been so many wars fought. Christians have chipped away at them. Travelers have taken chunks out of them. But yet there they are. They survive. They're magnificent, and they still contain all this information about the cosmic cycles, and they're keys for us to resynchronize to the cosmic cycles, because that's part of what we have to do right now. So I think a key to understanding 2012 and the dimensional shift and what's taking place is understanding time. And I read this amazing book by this guy, Gene Gebser, and he's a German philosopher. He wrote one book. He spent 17 years on it. It's called The Ever-Present Origin. And in this book, he just looks at human consciousness. And he sees that consciousness his thesis in the book is that human consciousness does not evolve incrementally. It evolves in sudden breaks and mutations. And he looks at past mutations, and he delineates a number of them. And each different, he calls them consciousness structures. And each different consciousness structure is also a different kind of relationship to space and time. He has the archaic consciousness structure, which is kind of pre-temporal. He has the magical consciousness structure. In magical time, it's instantaneous. Things just happen like that. Then there's the mythical consciousness structure, which is Egypt, Babylon, Hindus. That's cyclicity, periodicity, duality, returning. Then we have what we're at the end of now, which is the mental rational structure, and that's linear time. And he believes that we're right now moving into a different mutation, into a new consciousness structure, which he calls the integral aperspectival. Now, the mental rational consciousness structure, I can't remember when he says it began right now, the Greeks maybe. It kind of peaked in the 15th century with perspective. And since then it's in the deficient mode. And basically, we became obsessed with matter, materiality, spatial extension. Okay, we thought that's all that reality was. So we spatialized time. We said that you can have, when we talk about time, the words we use, we talk about a length of time, or a span of time, or an amount of time. But time is not a length, or a span, or an amount. It's something different. Einstein said it was the fourth dimension. Okay, what time is, according to Gebser, is intensities. It's non-categorizable. There's infinite types of intensities that you can experience. Time is a kind of vibrational matrix. So you have the archaic, the magical, the mystical, the mental rational, and the new consciousness mutation, integral, aperspectival. Integral, aperspectival, you recognize that all of these layers, previous layers of consciousness, exist simultaneously. Okay? You are simultaneously in the pretemporal origin, the ever-present origin. Okay? You are in magical, instantaneous time. You are in mythical, psychical time. You are in mental, rational, linear time. You're in all of these times simultaneously. They don't. There's no conflict there. From the integral perspective, you recognize that all of these times are what he calls veils, diaphanous veils. They're like curtains, veils, and you have that different perspective from which to live in time. So I read this book, and I was. Before I even read this book, actually, I was incredibly lucky to get a chance to talk to Jose Arguelles. How many people here have read Jose Arguelles' books? So not so many. I think Jose Arguelles is very, very profound, very, very important. And basically, the thesis of Arguelles that he came up with is that the Mayans are a kind of galactic civilization that came to Earth, the classical Mayans, incarnated into the Earth at a certain point to leave the temples at Palenque, to encode into the planet this information about time and resynchronization, so that now, when we needed to have this information, we would find it. It would be there. Okay? The tomb of Paco Votan in Palenque was opened, I think it was June 15th, 1952. The archaeologists who opened this tomb, they found it. They found, they'd seen the whole thing before, but they found this secret tunnel, secret speaking tube, and went down into this tomb. And that's where they found Paco Votan. You've probably seen the cover of the tomb, which is this amazing image of Paco Votan kind of drifting, floating through the kind of cosmos, the cosmic tree, in kind of meditative samadhi. So they found this tube, June 15th, 1952, I think. The archaeologists said when they opened the doors to this tomb, they could feel the concentrated thoughts of the last people who'd occupied that room rushing past them and into the atmosphere. Okay? Jose Arguelles believes that those thoughts, there was a concentrated meditation, had been created in that space so that at certain points, those thoughts would rush out and begin or help to activate what Arguelles calls. How many people know about the concept of the noosphere? Okay, so some people, that's great. So the idea of the noosphere is that, and it's from Teilhard de Chardin, okay, there's, different layers of the planet. There's, kind of the mineral layer, the lithosphere, there's the water layer, there's there's the whole biosphere, there's the atmosphere. And above all of that is the noosphere, which is the envelope of thought around the planet. And what 2012 is about humanity consciously activating the noosphere. And when we're able to do that, we will be able to consciously transform the planet in whatever way we like. Okay? The planet will become Burning Man. That's what's going to happen in 2013. With running water, exactly. Gebser looks at the mental rational consciousness structure. What happens when the structure changes? Okay, what happens when somebody from a new mutation goes to the old mutation? Okay, what happens when Cortez goes to South America? Huge Aztec empire, somewhat decadent, huge, okay? He goes there with a small group of men. In a few months, the entire empire collapses. Why? Because Cortez is a man of the mental rational consciousness structure. The Aztecs are still in the mythical consciousness structure. They can't deal with him. There's no way for them. They just collapse, okay? When you achieve the integral aperspectival consciousness structure, the mental rational consciousness structure simply disappears. Or you integrate it into all these other structures. I mean, which arguably I would say are more profound ways of dealing with existence, but they're all together, And I think that's what's happening right now. And he says that when this begins to happen, it's like the old consciousness structure, begins to degrade, begins to almost like dissipate. It's like it can't be. It's not real anymore. I had this experience. I was flying to Hawaii for this shamanic retreat that was so profound and beautiful, and I was so lucky to get to go on it with these amazing people. And I changed planes in the